Chapter 2 A Bag of Trouble. Here's how it happened. We stood at the edge of the rippling scrum, shouting offers. Anything we could think of, loans and favors and involuntary servitude. Suddenly, Bobby Jean's face turned sour. He pushed Susie away from his chest in a hurry. I think she just messed, he said. I can smell it. He held her aloof from his beefy arms and sniffed. I tore my eyes from the stage and inspected her red, white, and blue onesie for a sign of spillover. One thing about babies, they leak a lot. Sold, Corby Cormier cried out. Dang, I missed it. To Caleb and Bobby Jean Franklin. What? Groans of protest swelled out of the crowd. Everyone turned to us. Bobby Jean lowered Susie so fast that for a second I thought he'll drop her. She let out a delighted laugh, and up on the stage, Corey Cromier grinned in our direction. He jumped down, pushed a bag of fireworks at me, and stretched out his arms to Susie. She giggled obligingly and banged on his arms with her fat fist. That's great, you guys, he said. Thanks. I clutched the fireworks to my chest. It was like hugging a bag of cats. I always wanted a little sister, Corey said. His words nearly got lost in the jostle of the crowd, which had turned to trying to barter with me now that I had the prize. Being the center of attention felt something like it might feel to be in a pinball machine as the ball. A pinball that moves faster and faster and gets more and more power and more points. Their energy shot straight into me. Who's ordinary now? Not for sale, I shouted. They're ours. I would like to say that I didn't entirely understand what I was saying. I like to say that I can. Corey scooped Susie out of Bobby Jean's arms. Whoa, he said. She's heavier than she looks. You're telling me, said Bobby Jean. We cringed at Corey's bare forearms went around Susie's dirty diaper bottom. You sure? He said. She bounced her face against his shoulder, leaving a spit stain, and thrashed her legs, perfectly happy. Bobby Jean and I looked at each other, at the burlap sack, at Susie. Bobby Jean said, she needs to be changed, I admitted. The hideous stench wafting up from Susie's backside would surely be a deal breaker. Show me how, Corey said, real serious. I can do it. So Bobby Jean ran for the diaper bag while I defended the fireworks, and Corey cooed and cuddled our little sister. It seemed like a fair trade the more I thought about it. One loud, explosive mess for another. Dad was in a tight mood by the end of the evening. This was to be expected. Bobby Jean and I always had more fun at the hall than he did. Through the sliding door, he called out, Bobby Jean, Caleb, and then went to wait on the front porch. When we came out, Bobby Jean was carrying the gunny sack, which could easily have been Susie all wrapped up in a blanket or something. Of course, we didn't come to the hall with the blanket, and that's the kind of detail Mom would notice. Not Dad. You ready? He said, yes, sir. He seemed chill on the surface as he waved goodbye to a few guys on the porch. We knew better. Underneath, he was all distracted and angry, his head full of other people's politics and a lot of biting his tongue. We trailed behind him on the walk home, lugging the gunny sack and trading it off between us. But Dad stared at the ground. Going to the hall was like a job to Dad, a job he hated. The more they see us, the more they'll know we're just like them, he said. If we asked, which we didn't anymore, it was his way of keeping us safe. Mom explained, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. When we got to the house, Dad flipped on the TV. He turned to the channel that told the news the way he liked to hear it. Over his shoulder, he said, "Put Susie in the crib, okay?" Sure," we said. Then we ran to our room and examined each and every firework. Soon we heard Mom's car in the driveway. Bobby Jean and I looked at each other, and right about then, we both got a real bad feeling in our stomach. We shoved the fireworks into the bag and the bag under the bed and got the edges of Bobby Jean's comforter pulled down just in the nick of time. Our door banged open. "Where is your sister?" Okay, boys and girls, that is the end of chapter 2.